The files are not stories. They are not fiction. They are records, fragments pulled from the dark, sealed once, unsealed now. For those who dare to listen, each carries its own weight, its own silence, its own risk. What you are about to hear is one such record. Listen carefully, because once a file is opened, it cannot be unheard. Snow lifts in slow breath from the lake like a sleeper's sigh. The generator falters. Lights dim to amber, then bruise dark. He feels it first in the gums, a small throb that isn't his. Then it reaches the pads of his paws, crawls into the wrist, plants itself behind the breastbone. One beat, a second beat tucked inside it, too neat to be an arrhythmia, too patient to be a machine. The needles on the panel shiver without wind. Water in a cylinder leaps in time. His fur holds sparks that no hand made. He steadies himself, claws catching the metal grate, breath a white flag turning see-through at the edges. There's a tunnel mouth in the lake ice, black as a pupil and rimmed with hoarfrost. His radio whispers with no voice. The second beat grows louder, a fist knocking from the wrong side of the door. He knows, without knowing why, that the door is the size of the basin, and that the door wants in. The snow stops falling, all at once. The next beat is not his. The next one after. That isn't either. The rope cinches his harness. The pit waits, open and listening. Case File 002. Audio Hazard Somatic Vector. Classification: Entrainer. Non-local field. Field name: Hidden Pulse. Primary witness: an affected party. Bram Ketter, male Ursine, 38 winters, hydrocaustic technician assigned to Carrick Lake. Listening station: under the Boreal Basin Survey. The station is a cube of corrugated steel, on pillars, lashed by cable to bedrock, that does not care. Inside, an array of hydrophones under the ice, a bank of sensitive meters that do not blink, and one bed that does. The lake is glacial, black under its rind, older than the outpost that pretending makes into a home. The archivist notes the subject's baseline, a large frame built for weight and weather, thick fur that mats when salt meets cold, resting heart, rate low, like most of his kind, hands precise with tools that like to slip. He eats tinned fruit out of habit, because it reminds him that sweetness exists. He trusts signals. He mistrusts stories, except the ones he can measure. This will trouble him soon. The anomaly arrives as a number first, then as breath. The hydrophones take in a regular swell from beneath the ice, not wind, not tectonic bark, not animal, not the familiar thunder of calving. It dares the math to explain it and hums under the math when it tries. It begins to entrain, which is a kind word for a theft performed gently. The hidden beat pairs itself to bodies that can be trained, to marrow, to reflex, to the small muscles around the pupil that widen when a thing is seen. Once it pairs, it asks for a walk, it asks for a climb, it asks for the rope. Threat level 5 is the level where you can survive if you leave before you learn its real name. He does not leave. The archivist proceeds on a straight line, because the pulse prefers a circle. The facts: geomagnetic activity above, a low pressing in from the north, temperatures that make metal sing if you lay your cheek against it, a technician who logs anomalies precisely until he feels them personally. The stakes are simple: body, memory, community. If the pulse keeps pairing itself to the mammals in the basin will walk, and then it won't be the basin anymore. The station records the first beat at 1:13. By 4:06 the station is recording him. He begins at dawn. That is not dawn, because February at this latitude does not deliver mornings so much as prolonged dimness. The horizon smears itself in brass, a thin band above the tree line that never fully achieves day. The light is weak, but it lingers, and the station seems caught in perpetual dusk. Inside, a kettle mutters, coils clicking as frost lifts from their skin. Steam carries the scent of tannin and old metal, filling the cabin with a dryness that tastes like wool. The archivist records this first fact. Bram Ketter's life is measured in repetitions, not in events. He wakes without alarm. He does not need one. The generator has its own rhythm, and his body has tuned itself to the pitch of its hum. He sits on the bunk for a count of 30 before standing, as though the body requires a negotiation with gravity. Then comes the ritual sharpening of pencils, always two, never one, as if a spare makes the first trustworthy. He lines them beside the logbook. He presses his paw flat on the paper to feel its texture, fibrous, familiar. That tactile certainty steadies him before the numbers begin. The gauges line the wall from left to right, and he reads them in sequence, left to right, as though reading a story whose plot he already knows. Generator output steady, battery charge sufficient, environmental metrics stable, hydrophone channels 5, and total quiet, except for channel 3, which hisses faintly. He logs each figure in block letters, each stroke precise, heavy on the page. His handwriting is not elegant, but it is deliberate, as if force could keep the world aligned. The cabin smells of wool and printer ink, layered over with the oil-sweet temps of diesel. He has grown to depend on these scents, because they mean the station is alive. When the generator idles low and the air grows still, silence presses too tightly against his ears. He hates that silence more than cold. Silence has no boundaries. Machines, at least, declare themselves. Dressing for outside is another ritual. Wool against fur, neoprene to trap heat, parka that adds weight until he feels half stone. The parka resents being removed. It clings to his shoulders with a tug of frost-damp fibers. His fur mats with salt from the days before, and he combs through it quickly, with claws, before sealing the zippers. Bears are made to endure cold, but endurance is not comfort. Each breath beyond the door scalds the throat, needles the nasal passages, lays frost in the lashes, until blinking feels like cracking ice. Still, he goes. The station demands it. The lake spreads below in black silence, crusted with a sheath of ice older than the station itself. Frost feathers the steel supports until they resemble bone. Pines at the tree line bend with their burdens, every needle glassed in rhyme. When the wind moves, they chime faintly, crystalline, as if the forests were filled with instruments too fragile to touch. The archivist remarks, "In such places, silence is never empty. It is layered. You hear distance itself. You hear your own heart in your ears. You mistake your blood for another creature walking beside you." Bram tends to the hydrophones, the way others tend to gardens. He scrapes ice from the mouths of ports, careful not to score the casings. He oils the seals, pungent scent sharp in the frozen air. He wraps the mast to test its stability and waits for the vibration to die. He tugs each line as if tugging reins. On an animal, rope creaks but holds. The sound comforts him. It repeats, and repetition is proof. He hums under his breath. No words, only rhythm, another proof. Fox tracks cross the crust in a tightrope's line. He stoops to mark one with a claw, not to measure, but to confirm. They remind him that other warm things move in this basin. He tells himself he is cataloging the presence of predators or scavengers, but the archivist observes the truth. It is loneliness that drives him to press his claw beside theirs. Loneliness registers not as pain, but as awareness of absence. The way the skin registers cold, inside again. The station breathes like a creature, generator purring through the floor. The parka thumps onto its hook. He runs claws along the console seams. Superstition disguised as maintenance. If the seams are warm, then the station is well. The log receives another line of notes. His handwriting holds its shape, blocky and deliberate, though the graphite smudges the pads of his paws. He eats half a can of fruit and syrup, chewing not for hunger, but for memory. Sweetness proves a world exists beyond salt and steel. Afternoons stretch without direction. He spends them tightening bolts, greasing the winch, stacking rations by expiration date though. They are already sorted. He cleans the snow saw, its teeth catching lamplight. He tests the emergency beacon, listening for its ping, even though no one is listening back. He folds blankets into neat quarters, a shape that calms him. The archivist notes that in isolation, chores become talismans. They are not for utility alone. They are for the body's belief that order remains possible. The world outside remains still, pinned in glass. Pines do not sway so much as groan, bending under ice until they creak like timbers. The horizon line between lake and sky never alters, a seam stitched too tightly. He studies it sometimes until his vision blurs, waiting for something to change. And when nothing does, he feels both relieved and disappointed. At night he lies on the bunk and listens to the generator hum through the frame. It resonates through steel into bone, a vibration that tempts him to count. He resists. Counting would give it authority. He rolls onto his side, claws hooked against the wool blanket, and forces his mind to wander elsewhere. He remembers the smell of riverbanks in spring, mud, and thawed grass, the memory sharp enough to bring saliva to his mouth. He remembers the crunch of fish bones from a younger season. He does not remember why he left those places, only that he wanted quiet. Now he has more quiet than he can use. The archivist remarks, baseline is not absence. Baseline is texture. Each creak in the wall, each sigh of wind against the mast, each drip in the pipes, each scrape of claw against graphite builds a world. And it is this world mundane, deliberate, repetitive that the anomaly will measure itself against. Every note must be written down so that when the false beat begins, there is no doubt what it steals. For now, the station remains Bram's alone. The lake lies dormant, black water dreaming below, ice too thick to surrender. The foxes keep their distance. The generator holds steady. His heart beats slow, broad, steady, the rhythm of a large body at rest, untroubled. He believes it is his own. He sharpens his pencils, closes the log, and sits in the quiet as though nothing waits beneath his chest. He thinks he has succeeded, but the stillness already contains a shadow of the second beat, practicing in secret, rehearsing for its arrival. The second act of this file begins with sound. Not a scream, not a rupture, just the soft insistence of something added to silence. Bramketter is not yet aware of it. Awareness takes time. It seeps. What he first hears is only an echo in the hydrophone line, the faintest doubling of the hiss he has catalogued a dozen times before. Channel 3 has always carried its flaw, a ghost of interference. But this morning, the ghost feels awake. He sharpens his two pencils as always. The wood curls obediently, graphite points forming neat cones. He writes the metrics: generator output, stable; battery charge, sufficient; barometric pressure, falling, but not dangerously; hydrophones, for quiet, one restless. He underlines the restless figure twice, though he tells himself the habit is indulgence. The hiss rises and falls like breath. He imagines it is breath. Then he erases the thought before it hardens. The archivist observes that anomalies rarely arrive in grandeur. They begin as static, background irritations that only the attentive notice. The attentive, unfortunately, cannot stop noticing. Bram eats his ration of oats with water. The taste is cardboard and iron. His jaw works slowly, not out of fatigue, but out of determination to assign meaning to each bite. Meaning in, energy out, heat sustained. It is the same equation that governs everything here. He rinses the cup in a basin, the water sloshing against the metal sides. Then he pauses, head cocked. For a breath he believes the slosh carries an echo, a delayed resonance. He shakes the cup again. Nothing repeats. He shakes his head. The pencil points rest on the logbook like sharp eyes, watching. He steps outside into air that burns the nose. The sky is low, clouds pressed flat, a woolen ceiling. Snowfall is not falling so much as drifting. dry grains sifting sideways on the wind. His boots crunch into the crust with the precise sound he expects until they don't. One step lands hollow, as though beneath the crust the lake skin shifted. He stoops, presses his paw against the ice, but it holds firm, smooth as glass. He waits, ears pricked for cracks. None arrive. He walks on, but slower, every step an experiment. At the mast, he checks the lines, tugs the cables, oils the seals. The rope creaks, a sound he trusts. But layered faintly beneath it is another vibration, not strong enough to be heard so much as felt through his pads. A soft doubling, as though the rope sang in two notes at once. He presses his paw against it longer than usual, willing the impression to fade. The wind gusts, rattling ice on the deck, and when it passes, the doubling is gone. He makes his notes in block letters. Slight vibration, indeterminate source. He underlines indeterminate. Inside again, the station feels smaller. He lights a second lamp, though one suffices. Shadows double on the wall, his broad shoulders cast. In pairs, he reminds himself, the flame flickers unevenly. It has done so before. Yet he watches the doubled silhouette for a minute too long, until his tea cools. The hydrophones return him to order. He wears the headphones, pads pressing close against the fur, and listens. Channel 1, static silence. Channel 2, distant, groan of ice shifting under wind. Channel 3, hiss. But the hiss is no longer neutral. Beneath it is a rhythm. Not clear, not loud, but there. A pressure in the noise. Faint rises and falls at intervals, too steady for accident. He finds his paw tapping against his thigh in sync, though he does not remember deciding to. He pulls the headphones off sharply, breath clouding before him, chest tight. He logs the hiss as persistent. The word feels dishonest. Evening brings chores again. He scrapes frost from the vents, checks the beacon, sweeps the floor of ice grains tracked in on his boots. Each motion anchors him. He tells himself the anomaly, if one exists, will resolve with reason. Sound waves refract under ice. Temperature shifts cause pulses in equipment. He recites explanations silently as prayers. Still, when he lies in the bunk, the hum through the frame feels different. Before, it was singular. Now it carries a companion, a second resonance half a breath behind. He clamps his paw over his chest, feeling his heart, timing it against the vibration. He forces himself to stop before alignment forms. The archivist notes here. Bram begins cataloging not only numbers, but sensations. He writes them as though ashamed, small notes in margins. Hollow step, shadow doubled, vibration, uncertain. Marginalia grows faster than metrics. This is the shape of investigation, scientific rigor stretched against something that resists measurement. He still believes order will hold. He still believes the strange will bend into graphs. But the strange is learning his rhythm. The next day, the fox tracks reappear. This time they loop, circling, as if the animal wandered without aim. He follows them a short distance from the station. They spiral, tighten, then stop. No exit trail, only snow unbroken beyond. He kneels, paw against the final print, claws marking beside it. The track feels recent, edges crisp. But the fox is gone, not fled, not retreated, simply gone. He returns to the station faster than he left. At midday, he plays back the hydrophone tapes. Spools turn with a dry click. Channel 3's hiss scratches at him, but deeper within the band is the pulse. This time, he counts. He cannot help it. 60 beats in a minute. Exactly 60. His own heart, slower, heavier, begins to sink. He rips the reel free, tape slapping against its edge. The silence that follows is worse, because silence no longer feels like absence. It feels like withholding. That night the dreams begin. Not dreams of places, but of textures brushed the wrong way. Ropes vibrating, ice crackling underfoot. Each sensation pulses in time. He wakes with claws hooked in the wool blanket, chest heaving as though he has been running. The generator hum beneath him carries its double still. He lies awake until morning, unwilling to surrender again. By the third day, he no longer trusts his own footsteps. He stamps before each stride, listening for hollowness. Sometimes it comes, sometimes not. He notes temperature, wind speed, pressure, searching for a correlation. None appears. He scratches lines through his log, furious at the failure of data. His block letters grow darker, graphite pressing grooves into paper. The margin notes spread, filling edges like mold. The archivist observes. He is not yet in danger of collapse. He remains measured, deliberate, but the investigation no longer belongs to him. The anomaly has chosen its instrument. It plays through rope, through frame, through hydrophone. It plays through his ribs. His role is only to record, and recording will not save him. Still, he believes it might. He sharpens his pencils, 2 at a time. The curls of wood fall in neat spirals. He logs each hiss, each hollow, each doubled shadow. He presses his paw against the logbook, as if to feel the graphite pulse beneath the page. He tells himself he owns the rhythm. He does not notice that he is tapping his claws, always tapping, to a beat that is not his. The investigation deepens. The pulse is patient. The foxes do not return. And the lake, black beneath its sheath, dreams louder each night. The file turns here. Up until now, the anomaly had remained ambient, something Bram could still name as equipment error, ice resonance, personal fatigue. But contact is never subtle forever. It wants recognition. It wants a witness. And on the 5th day, the witness begins to answer without meaning to. Morning arrives as a smear of brass light, barely there through the frost-blind windows. The air feels tense, heavy with static. Bram wakes not from rest, but from a jerk, claws clenching the wool blanket as though he has been dragged upward. His chest aches. The first thought is not hunger, not fuel checks, not weather conditions. It is the pulse. The moment his eyes open, he hears it, faint, steady, behind the wall, within the frame, maybe inside his own ears. A double beat, where one should suffice. He sits up sharply, paw pressed to his sternum, and feels his own rhythm, lagging a fraction behind. He forces himself to the logbook, pencils sharpened, block letters neat, generator output steady, battery charge sufficient, hydrophones 3 active, 2 quiet, noted irregularity persists. He writes the words as if they matter. They do not still the pressure. Outside, the snow has fallen smooth, wiping away old tracks. The deck groans under his weight, wood grain stiff with frost. He grips the mast cable, tugging. The vibration thrums up his arm, but this time it answers. The rope gives a shiver in return, timed perfectly with the throb under his paw. He jerks back as if burned, breath steaming in thick clouds. He stares at the line until wind rattles it again, but the secondary shiver does not repeat. His claws itch. He does not write this down. By midday, the hydrophones whisper again. He dons the headphones, pads tight against his ears, and listens. Channel 3's hiss is no longer random. Beneath it, tone, low, almost below hearing, but felt in the jaw and chest. Not a pure tone, but a staggered one. Bodum, bodum. He realizes his paw has begun tapping the logbook again, claws clicking in sync. He clenches it flat. The clicking stops. The rhythm does not. The archivist remarks, the first contact is not conversation in words. It is synchronization. To speak with a pulse, you must offer your own. The anomaly now owns the metronome of his body. Bram records 3 full minutes of channel 3. The reel turns, tape hissing. He times the beat with a stopwatch, and it holds. 60 beats per minute. Unwavering, his own heart stutters irregularly against it. He swallows, throat raw, from the effort. The thought comes uninvited. It is steadier than me. When he removes the headphones, the room does not fall silent. The tone persists faintly, behind the generator hum, behind the lamp hiss, in the grain of the floor. He walks the room, pressing, an ear against metal, wood, plaster. Each yields the same throb. He tells himself the station is resonating as one body, that temperature shifts cause contraction, that the hum is mechanical. But when he presses his ear to the logbook itself, he hears it there too. He slams it shut, breath fogging in bursts. The days begin to blur. Morning, scraping ice. Noon, checking gauges. Evening, recording hiss. But the anomaly alters each step. The fox tracks do not return. The forest grows, utterly still. Even the wind seems to falter, pausing in long stretches, as though listening with him. When he stamps the snow to test for hollowness, the echo now arrives not randomly, but imperfect. Delay half a beat after his footfall, as if something beneath mimics him. He tests this 3 times. 3 times it answers. He staggers back to the station, coat stiff, claws trembling against the handle. He logs nothing. Nights stretch longer. Shadows bleed across the walls, in time with his own shallow breathing. When the generator hiccups, the lamps dim, and for an instant he swears the flicker matches the same rhythm. He cannot tell whether it is electrical fault or obedience. Dreams arrive like intrusions rather than escapes. Not landscapes, not faces, shapes and rhythm. Circles expanding, contracting, lattice of ice vibrating, a spiral that beats in time with his ribs. He wakes, gasping, fur damp with cold sweat, throat tasting of metal. The bunk hum has grown louder. So loud he presses his paws against his ears. But the sound is not external. It blooms inside. He curls into himself, repeating numbers, counting anything but the beats. Numbers fail. The rhythm remains. The archivist notes that at this stage, Bram stops distinguishing between subjective perception and instrument reading. His notes blur, pulse audible in wall. Hollow echo repeats footfall. Hydrophone consistent at 60 BPM, external, internal. The file shows handwriting losing uniformity. Block letters fray at the edges, graphite smudged by the drag of his paw. The act of recording no longer preserves distance. It becomes confession. On the 7th day, the ice cracks. Not shatters, not dangerous collapse, but a single long fracture echoing through the lake bed like a whip. Bram jerks upright from his desk, claws scoring the page. He stares out the frost-blurred window. Across the lake, the snow has split in, a jagged black seam, vapor rising faintly. He steps outside without gloves, not noticing the bite of air. The seam widens as he watches, then stops. His heart hammers. The pulse beneath answers steady, calm. He clutches his chest, aware he is out of rhythm. He realizes the thought is not his. It is steadier than me. That night, the auroras awaken. Green ribbons pulse overhead in sheets of color, trembling across the frozen tree line. He watches through the frosted glass, unable to look away. The lights do not ripple randomly. They rise and fall like lungs, every surge aligned with the pulse he cannot stop hearing. He does not log this, he whispers to the glass instead, paw resting against the pane until the cold burns. By the 8th day, resistance becomes performance. He unplugs the hydrophones, drags the cables into coils, and sets them by the wall. He stacks equipment on top, as though weight will silence it. He sits in the bunk, rocking slightly, paws clenched. For 10 minutes, silence holds. Then the floor vibrates, not loud, but insistent. The coil of cables trembles visibly, tape reels jittering in time. He grips them, but the vibration continues up his arms. He drops them, staggers back, breath raw. The pulse does not need wires. It has found other conduits. Sleep no longer comes in whole hours. He lies, staring at the ceiling, tracing lines of frost. waiting for the next beat. His paw drifts to his sternum again and again. He times his own pulse against the unseen one, and each time he falls behind. He knows he cannot win this race, but he times anyway, until exhaustion drowns him. By the 9th day, he begins speaking aloud. Not words, not prayers, only rhythm. A hum in his throat, low, matching the pulse, then fighting it, then surrendering. He does not realize he has started. He does not realize the tape recorder has captured it, his own voice droning in synchrony with something he claims not to believe. The archivist observes. First contact is never grand. It is intimate. It does not appear before your eyes. It appears inside your chest. The bear who sharpened 2 pencils, who lived by block letters and margins, has become a metronome in service of something older, something steady. His investigation is complete. He has found what he sought. What he does not yet understand is that it has also found him. The lake waits. The fracture yawns wider each night. The hum grows louder in the bones of the station. And Bram Ketter, case file 002, has begun to dream in rhythm not his own. The case file marks this section with a simple note. The subject ceased to resist. Yet the details show it was not surrender all at once, but a gradual folding inward. A winter of many small fractures until the frame of the self could no longer bear weight. The 10th day begins with silence. Bram wakes, expecting the hum, the vibration in his jaw, the familiar stutter of his own chest. Instead, there is nothing. The generator purrs evenly. The hydrophones hiss without rhythm. The floor feels inert. He lies in the bunk, paw pressed to his sternum, and finds his pulse erratic, fragile, uneven. He should feel relief. Instead, he feels abandoned. He rises too quickly, head spinning, ears ringing in the quiet. He stumbles outside, snow blinding, white beneath the aurora's faded tail. The seam in the ice is wider now, thick vapor rising from the fracture like breath. He kneels at its edge, fur bristling in the cold, and listens. For 1 long minute, there is nothing. Then it returns subtle, distant, but present. A throb beneath the lake, deep as a buried drum. His own chest answers involuntarily, thudding harder, trying to match. He doubles over, both paws clutching his ribs, gasping steam. He feels as though something inside him has been reprimanded for wandering. The archivist remarks, "To be heard by the anomaly is to be held accountable. Silence is not absence, it is punishment." By midday, the silence turns into intrusion. Objects in the cabin shift of their own accord. The pencil rolls from the desk in perfect rhythm, striking the floor with hollow ticks. A coil of rope lifts, trembles, and settles again. The logbook pages flutter, as though caught in an unseen draft. He gathers each item, forces them into drawers, slams them shut, but the vibration continues through the wood. The station itself is no longer structure. It is diaphragm. He places his ear against the window glass, frost crackling beneath his breath. He hears not wind, not ice, but breath. Slow inhalation, slow release. His paw lifts and settles against the pain and rhythm. He realizes with disgust that he has been matching it unconsciously, his chest rising and falling as one. He tears away, staggering back, paws trembling. He claws at the logbook, scribbling words without grammar, breathing. Walls, breathing air, not mine, not mine. At dusk, the auroras flare again. Green swells ripple across the lake, pulsing in unison with the fracture. The vapor plumes rise taller, bending in invisible drafts. The silence he once knew in these woods has inverted. Now everything answers the same conductor. Snow, water, light, even his own marrow. Sleep becomes impossible. Each time he closes his eyes, shapes crowd in, spirals tightening, lattice collapsing, circles beating. His paws twitch in time against the blanket. At one point, he jolts awake to find his claws carving rhythm into the wooden bunk post, gouges aligned like tally marks. He does not remember beginning. He does not stop. The archivist observes that this is the classic middle phase. External alignment becomes internal compulsion. At first, the subject listened. Then the subject echoed. Now the subject originates rhythm unconsciously. The barrier between anomaly and witness is dissolving. The 11th day delivers proof. While adjusting the generator's pressure valve, Bram doubles over in pain. His chest convulses, fur damp with sweat despite the cold. He clutches the railing, vision white with sparks. He collapses to his knees, ears ringing with the roar of blood. Then he realizes, it is not his blood. It is not pain. It is rhythm. His sternum is vibrating outward, his ribs straining against some hidden frequency. He presses his paw flat, horrified. The beat radiates beyond him, into the metal railing, into the deck, into the very air. For the first time, he is not a passive listener, he is transmitter. He staggers inside, breath sharp, collapses against the logbook. His writing comes jagged. It used me, hurt itself in me. His claws rip through the paper. He tries to steady himself with measurement counts per minute, number of beats between gasps. None hold steady. The rhythm does not belong to mathematics. It belongs to presence. That night, the fracture in the lake exhales again. The vapor reaches the cabin walls, curling against the windows. It coats the glass in ice that pulses with faint inner light, each bloom synchronized to the unseen throb. He crouches near the door, eyes wide, paws shaking. For the first time, he whispers aloud, "Stop." His breath fogs the air. The frost blossoms faster, blooming across the floorboards, answering him in steady counterbeat. His plea has been acknowledged. His plea has been denied. On the 12th day, his notes deteriorate. The block letters disintegrate into jagged slashes, curves, symbols that do not match any alphabet. They resemble waves, spirals, heart traces. He writes with furious pace, then stares blankly at the page, unable to decipher what he has written. He turns the logbook sideways, upside down. The symbols remain steady. He realizes with a shudder that his paw has been tracing rhythm rather than meaning. Outside, the seam across the lake has widened to a full channel. Black water steaming beneath green auroras. Shapes drift beneath the surface, vague masses shifting with the pulse. He tells himself they are icebergs. He tells himself they are tricks of light. But when the rhythm surges, they move together, rising, sinking, rolling in unison. He retreats inside, paws clenched tight against his muzzle to keep from crying out. The archivist notes that by now, the anomaly has colonized every sensory register, sound, light, vibration, even written form. The witness has no remaining refuge. Resistance becomes absurd. He is orchestra, not audience. On the 13th night, the cabin itself betrays him. Beams creak in steady cadence. Nails ping loose. The bunk vibrates until it walks across the floor, scraping wood against wood. He sits on the planks, paws over his ears, but the sound is inside his bones. He begins to hum again, involuntary, chest resonating against the walls. His voice blends with the station, until he cannot tell whether the cabin is humming with him, or he with it. When dawn comes, he finds frost crystals on the inside of his window, forming geometric pattern spirals, nested within spirals. He exhales, on the glass. The frost melts, then blooms again, instantly, more intricate than before. He claws at it, but the patterns reform as fast as he can mar them. They are not decoration, they are notation. The anomaly has begun writing back. The 14th day. The file records no log entry. Instead, the tape reel plays uninterrupted humming, Bram's voice low, droning, merging with the groan of beams and hiss of wind. Hours pass with no break. At one point, the hum modulates downward, a perfect unison with the hydrophone's pulse. The anomaly has achieved full contact. The final note of this act, Bram's identity slips. His logs no longer refer to I or my, they refer to we. We are steady, we are vessel, we are herd. His paw prints smear the graphite. As though rhythm has become too urgent to finish words, the archivist concludes this phase clinically, though the tone trembles beneath. The escalation is complete. The bear, who once sharpened 2 pencils, who once measured ice thickness with patience, who once counted fox tracks for solace, is no longer observer. He is participant. The anomaly does not merely reside beneath the lake. It now resides within his marrow. The threat level climbs from 4 to 5. Synchronization is no longer potential. It is active. The next stage will decide whether it consumes him whole, or leaves behind only an empty vessel, still beating. The 15th day begins with stillness. Too still. The station does not creak. The fracture in the lake emits no steam. Even the auroras above hang motionless, their green bands arrested as if painted across the sky. Bram wakes, expecting the groan of timbers, the percussion of his ribs. Instead, he finds silence. It terrifies him more than any sound. He steps outside, paws crunching on snow crusted like glass. The air is sharp, metallic, heavy in the lungs. He walks to the lake, breath clouding in frozen bursts. The seam has widened into a river now, black water sheened with luminous frost. He kneels, ears angled forward, desperate for the pulse. Nothing, only water shifting slowly against the ice. He whispers aloud, a hoarse plea. Where are you? The archivist notes this moment carefully. By now the subject is dependent, addicted. The absence of the anomaly feels like suffocation. Silence is not reprieve. It is starvation. He stays crouched for hours, watching the dark current beneath the ice. Then, with no warning, it returns. Not a throb this time, a detonation. The ice heaves beneath his knees. The air ripples with soundless concussion. His chest collapses inward, as though struck by invisible hooves. He falls onto his side, gasping, paws scrabbling at snow. His ears ring, his jaw spasms, his vision fragments into shards of green and white. The pulse is no longer subtle. It has surfaced. The auroras blaze brighter than ever before, pouring across the sky in ribbons of emerald, violet, crimson. They twist downward, thickening until they resemble pillars, vast, luminous columns striking into the fracture. The vapor rises to meet them, forming bridges of light and steam. The entire lake is transformed into an organ pipe, vibrating with resonance so low, it borders on silence, so deep, it becomes sensation rather than sound. His ribs ache with it, his teeth chatter without cold. His skull hums like a hollow chamber. He tries to stand, but every attempt collapses him back to the snow. Each pulse seizes his muscles, jerking them in rhythm. His paws claw trenches in the crust. His throat emits broken noises, half groan, half chant, entirely unbidden. His body is not his. His body is instrument. The archivist's tone grows quiet. Here, the witness is no longer independent. He has been tuned. Every nerve, every fiber aligned. Shapes rise beneath the water, not vague this time, but defined. Immense silhouettes, arcing like ribs, spiraling upward like shells. They are not beasts, they are not machines. They are structures, forms that suggest architecture without obeying geometry, arches that bend in spirals, towers that taper inward, rather than out. They pulse with the same rhythm that shakes his chest. They are not approaching the surface. They are the surface, merely revealing more of themselves. Bram screams. But the scream harmonizes, stretching into pitch, weaving seamlessly into the anomaly's song. His terror becomes melody. He bites his own paw to break it, blood on snow. But even the whimper of pain sinks perfectly, a minor note threaded into chorus. He realizes then, there is no sound outside the rhythm anymore. The world has become score. The station collapses next. He hears timbers crack, nails snap free. The roof slams sideways into snow. The bunk splinters. The hydrophone reel unspools across the floor. Yet even destruction obeys pattern. Planks shatter in time. Debris scatters in arcs that pulse with auroral light. The cabin was never home. It was never structure. It was cocoon, now dissolved. He crawls through the wreckage, paws bloodied. By splinters, eyes locked on the river of black water. He feels drawn not forward, but downward, as though gravity itself has reoriented. The water is not surface. It is mouth. It waits, the archivist remarks. At this stage, threat classification reaches 6. The anomaly no longer whispers or intrudes. It demands. It requires a host to bridge scale with flesh. The subject, a solitary bear with steady paws, becomes aperture. The auroral columns lower further until they touch the snow around him. Where they strike, the ground ripples, ice deforming like liquid glass. He drags himself backward, but each movement is sluggish, as though resisting tide. He presses his back against what remains of the station wall. His claws dig grooves into wood, anchoring him, but the vibration shudders through, unseating him piece by piece. His breath hitches in perfect time with the unseen drum. Then comes the voice, not words, not even sound, but pressure against thought, articulation without tongue. We have waited. The meaning blooms directly inside him, undeniable, as though his own mind whispered it first. His fur bristles, ears flatten, but the message repeats, not in command, but inevitability. We have waited. We have found you. We have pulse. He thrashes, shaking his head, slamming his skull against timber to force silence. Splinters bite, blood seeps. Still the rhythm continues, steady, merciless. He feels his own heartbeat lurch, falter, then snap into absolute unison. The terror is not that his heart stops, but that it no longer belongs to him. Snow lifts in sheets around the fracture, carried by invisible waves. The aurora funnels downward into the water, lighting the abyss in green fire. For the first time, he sees depth, a spiraling chasm descending forever. Walls lined with those impossible structures, vibrating, breathing, alive. His vision collapses into tunnel. His paws slack against ruined timber. He whispers aloud without intending, "We." His voice joins the chorus seamlessly, not as addition, but as restoration, as though he had always belonged. The archivist's voice tightens. In this moment, the anomaly achieves full merger. The bear is erased, not by death, but by multiplication. Identity becomes rhythm. Rhythm becomes organ. Organ becomes vessel. He is lifted then, not by paw, not by claw, but by vibration. His body rises inches above snow, suspended in the auroral column. Fur lifts, claws extend, eyes roll back. His chest heaves once, twice, then steadies into perfect cadence. The green light floods his open jaws. The vapor curls inside his lungs. His body is no longer resisting tide. It is tide. The lake erupts. A column of water surges upward, spiraling, illuminated from within by unseen depths. Shapes writhe inside, vast and incomprehensible. Not beasts but systems. Not predators but architectures of motion. He feels them inside him, coiled through. Marrow, vibrating his spine like a bowstring. He sees nothing beyond rhythm. Snow pulses, ice breathes, sky convulses. He is no longer bear, no longer Bram, no longer solitary observer. He is instrument in orchestra larger than planets. He is pulse. The archivist pauses the record here. The notes after this moment are fragmented, smeared, likely written while levitating, if that term can even apply. Sentences collapse into single words. Vessel, aperture, return, return. Graphite tears the page with pressure. One paw print smears an entire section, as though dipped in ice water rather than blood. But the last legible line before the log ends is clear, jagged but deliberate. It found the heart's hidden pulse. It found me, the archivist concludes, voice heavy. This is climax. The anomaly has taken the witness not through violence, but through inevitability. The solitary bear, keeper of instruments, recorder of data, has been rewritten into rhythm itself. What waits beneath the lake has surfaced, not as beast or god, but as pulse, hidden yet omnipresent, demanding no worship, yet allowing no escape. Threat classification remains at 6. The anomaly cannot be confined. It cannot be reasoned with. It only and once synchronized, there is no return. When the noise ends, it does not end with collapse. It ends with absence. No craque, no shatter, no final. Crescendo, simply stillness, absolute, as though sound itself has been erased from the world. The auroras gutter, their vast columns retracting, back into the night sky, leaving faint scars of color that drift apart like torn cloth. The river through the lake seals, ice knitting across its surface in seconds, smooth, flawless, betraying no wound, and the bare bram vanishes. The wreck of the station lies half buried, timbers steaming faintly in the cold. Snow falls again, slow, indifferent, softening debris until it resembles only another drift along the shoreline. No paw prints lead away. No body lies among the splinters. There is only blankness where he once stood, a clean impression in snow, already filling with flakes. The archivist pauses. The witness is gone, not scattered, not slain, removed. Hours later, the first storm sweeps in. Winds lash the plain, erasing all surface signs. The wreck disappears beneath dunes of snow. The lake is unbroken white. The world resets its mask. Yet below, the archivist insists, something stirs still. For while the anomaly retreats, it does not retreat entirely. In the silence of the storm, faint vibrations remain, not audible to ear, not visible to sky, but buried in marrow, in deep rock, in every living rib within radius. The hidden pulse persists, waiting, patient as ever. It does not need spectacle now. It has tasted one heart, and one is enough. For resonance is never solitary. Rhythm spreads in silence, slow as frost, sure as tide. The archivist sifts what remains of Bram's notes. Pages water-damaged, frozen stiff, smeared with graphite. Between torn entries and fractured sketches, a pattern surfaces. He had drawn spirals, endless, nested. He had scrawled the outline of ribs, over and over, until they became lattice, then towers, then structures, indistinguishable from auroral columns. He had written words he never used before: aperture, vessel, inheritance, return. Each repeated, dozens of times, the letters stacked like strata. In one margin, faint beneath paw scratches, lies a smaller line. It listens when the heart falters. The archivist lingers there, a quiet hypothesis. Perhaps the anomaly does not hunt the strong pulse, but the failing one. Perhaps it waits for the skipped beat, the weakness, the small surrender that lets rhythm slip inside. The environment itself confirms it. The station's ruins no longer creak. The forest no longer groans. Even the ice no longer fractures outward. Instead, everything now beats subtly, in perfect sync. One might not notice unless still, unless patient, but the pattern is there. Snowflakes land at equal intervals, wind gusts in measured breaths. A raven's wing beats over the plain fall precisely on quarter notes, as if trained. The world has been tuned, and yet no one remains to hear. Days pass, then weeks. The sky clears, but the auroras remain unnaturally punctual, igniting each night at the same exact minute, fading at the same exact hour. Hunters who pass the ridges notice it first, muttering that the light behaves too obediently, too much like clockwork. Animals avoid the lake. Caribou skirt its edge, hooves crunching farther into drifts rather than touch its frozen skin. Foxes dart close, then stop, ears flattening before bolting away. Even the wolves avoid howling there, as if unwilling to set their voices against something more ancient than their kind. The trees nearest the shore now groan, not randomly, but rhythmically. Sap pulses in their veins, in exact cadence, measurable, even when cut. Insects that would burrow into their bark instead die upon entry, unable to match pace. Silence accumulates like snow, thick, pressing, suffocating. The archivist recounts testimony from passing traders. One swore the lake's surface moved, though frozen solid, bulging as though breath pressed from beneath. Another claimed to have dreamed of vast ribs, curving not overhead but underfoot, enclosing the entire basin like cage or chest cavity. A third traveler returned mute, incapable of describing anything, paw pressed against his chest, as though guarding something inside. Within days, his heartbeat failed, stopping mid-step. No struggle, no gasp. He simply fell into the snow, eyes open, lips trembling silently in rhythm. These reports are gathered reluctantly. Few wish to speak. The more they recount, the stronger the memory becomes, and the more the pulse nests behind their words. What of Bram? No body, no trace, but his absence is not clean. The archivist notes strange phenomena in the ruins. Paw-shaped impressions appear in fresh snow, though no one approaches. A cup in the wreckage rattles at night, as though gripped by unseen paw. A graphite pencil rolls across the frozen desk, sketching small arcs, as if pushed by weightless claws. One might say Bram lingers not alive, not ghost, but as resonance, caught between measure and silence. If one stands at the cabin's remains long enough, a phantom heartbeat rises beneath their own, as though another chest overlaps theirs, deeper, slower, older. The archivist reflects on Bram himself, a solitary bear, steady paws, quiet work, no need for audience, a creature of method, of pattern. That was what drew it to him, the archivist suggests. Not weakness, not chance, compatibility. For rhythm is not an intruder to the solitary companion. He did not resist because he did not wish to resist. In silence, he longed for bait, and the anomaly answered. This truth weighs heavily, because it means the anomaly is not invader, but fulfillment. It does not consume by force, but by offering precisely what is absent. For the lonely company, for the weary, steadiness, for the fractured, order. Who would not lean toward such gifts, even knowing cost? The hydrophone's final recording becomes central. Played back, it reveals not noise, but structure. A single, low thrum, steady, regular, deeper than any drum. Beneath it, faint, a voice repeating, return, return, return. Slowed, the word stretches into groan. Sped, it snaps into click. Layered, it becomes symphony of demands. The archivist cannot determine if this voice is Bram's or the anomalies. Perhaps both. Perhaps there is no difference anymore. Here the archivist issues closing assessment. Threat classification remains at 6. Nature of anomaly, parasitic resonance, scale indeterminate, origin non-terrestrial. Primary effect, synchronization of biological systems, erasure of independent identity, induction of architectural projections beneath water, spread vector, auditory resonance, psychological vulnerability, cardiac irregularity, survivability, null upon sustained exposure, containment impossible. Anomaly is not object, not entity, but rhythm. Rhythm cannot be caged. It can only be answered, and yet the archivist hesitates. His voice falters for the first time in the case file. Because as he recites these classifications, he notices something subtle. His own speech, paced evenly. His own words, falling in meter. His own breath, catching at regular intervals. He realizes that even in recounting, he has not escaped the pull. The file itself vibrates faintly as he holds it, as if parchment hums between his claws. Is this transcription or continuation? The archivist asks quietly. Where does record end and resonance begin? The case closes not with conclusion, but with echo. In the silence that follows, the archivist leaves the last page unspoken. But you, the listener, can almost sense it. A page not written by paw, but by beat itself. A page that does not need ink. A page that thrums faintly against your own ribs as you listen in stillness. The archivist warns, but his voice quavers. Do not measure the silence around you. Do not listen for rhythm where none belongs. Because once heard, it cannot be unheard. And once answered, it does not leave. The snow covers the cabin. The lake seals. The forest waits, and beneath, patient as pulse, it waits too. Case file 002 ends here. Yet, even as I set the paper aside, I feel it still. That faint sensation in the chest, that almost imagined syncopation between silence and thrum. Perhaps you feel it too, though you sit far from that frozen basin, far from Bram's vanished world. Do not be comforted by distance. Rhythm does not respect distance. It travels through memory, through thought, through story. That is why these files are dangerous. They do not merely recount, they transmit. By listening, you have brushed against it. By allowing my words into your ears, you have opened the door just a fraction wider. Do not panic. Panic will not help you. Simply pay attention to your breathing. Notice if it begins to fall in step with mine. Notice if your heartbeat feels steadier now, more ordered, more present than it did before. If so, resist the urge to measure it. Do not count your pulse. Do not seek the pattern. Because the moment you acknowledge it, truly acknowledge it will know. And once it knows, it will wait. Patient, ancient, certain. That is the nature of the anomaly. It does not rush. It does not chase. It lingers like a song you half remember, like the pause between words, like the hush before sleep. Sooner or later, in weakness or weariness, you may find yourself listening for it again. And when you do, you will not be alone. This has been Case File 002, the bear who found a hidden pulse, filed, transcribed, and preserved in the record. The cases are many. The files are endless, and though they close here, remember, the anomalies do not stay bound by paper, nor by voice. They linger, they wait. If you choose to return, come prepared. Bring silence, bring patience, and leave your heartbeat unmeasured. Until the next anomaly finds you, the archivist will keep watch.